Since the internet is not working, what I am doing is I am recording on my phone. So at least those who are not here can listen later. And so what I will do is I will make a video of my voice on the phone combined with whatever slide I happen to be talking to. So even though we do not have Zoom, we'll still have something to share with those who are not here. Now, I want to apologize because first, last week, I did not hit the record button, so there was no video from last week on the Zoom call. Even though we had Zoom, there was no audio recording, so I could not post the video. So I will post the slides from last week, but there is no audio to go with them. We're going to continue this week with Class 13, which is a continuation from where we left off last week, last class. And I'm going to kind of quickly go through the sections on the 6 different areas of relationships from the Sigālovāda Sutta. I'll go through that relatively quickly. The Buddha initially, when he talked to Sigāla, he said, "Why are you worshiping the 6 directions?" And Sigāla said, "I am worshiping because my father told me to." And the word that was used is worshiping. But later when the Buddha starts analyzing or redefining, he doesn't use the word worshiping. He talks about protection. How do you get protected in the 6 directions? So the purpose of the worshiping is to gain protection. To gain protection in the 6 directions, which means from all angles. Here are the kind of the summary list of the 6 directions. Start with east. In the ancient India, they didn't use compass, so north was not where they started. They always started with east because that's where the sun rose. So, and I will share these slides as well, so no need to take them down. So, east was the parents, then the south the teachers, the west the wife, north friends, then the nadir going down workers, and the zenith going up ascetics. So here are the commitments that one has to one's parents and the reciprocal responsibilities that the parents have toward the children. The commitments are supporting them, fulfilling their duties, honoring their tradition, deserving their inheritance, honoring their passing. The responsibilities of the parents are restraining them from evil, nurturing goodness in them, teaching them skills, arranging the marriage, and providing inheritance. What we discussed earlier was you have to look at this in the context of ancient India, where, for example, arranging marriage was a responsibility of the parents. In today's context, we don't arrange marriages for our children anymore. However, we do have other responsibilities in terms of showing them how to be in a relationship, how good marriage looks. Now, the east is the direction where the sun rises, symbolizing new beginnings, life, and growth. It represents one's parents as they are the origin of one's life and the first givers of light, knowledge, and care. Just as the sun rises in the east and brings light to the world, parents give life and guide their children. Parents are the first teachers, just like dawn brings the first light. A reciprocal, ethical relationship between parents and children, grounded in gratitude, guidance, and mutual responsibility. Children honor their parents through support and continuation of values, moral integrity, both in life and after the parents pass. Parents nurture their children by protecting them from harm, fostering goodness, and preparing them for independent, responsible adulthood. This mutual care creates a stable foundation for family and, by extension, the society. So, that's really, I didn't want to go too much into this because we could get into all sorts of sociological and psychological aspects, but just wanted to mention that the Buddha highlighted this reciprocal responsibility between parents and children. Any questions or discussion on this? Okay. The responsibilities of teachers. Commitments are rising to greet them, attending to them. Eager receptivity. The student has a responsibility of being keen to learn, serving them, and mastering their teaching. The teacher has the responsibility to thoroughly instruct, ensure comprehension, provide well-roundedness, provide referrals. So, for example, if a teacher could say, I recommend this person for that job, that's their responsibility, and ensuring that they're safe. The south is where the sun reaches its highest point at midday, symbolizing full development and clarity. It represents teachers who develop the child's potential and bring clarity and discipline. Just as the sun in the south is at its height of illumination, teachers illuminate the path of knowledge and conduct. Teachers support the growth and maturation of the child's intellect and character. A respectful and cooperative relationship between student and teacher is the foundation of this relationship. The student honors the teacher with humility, attentiveness, a genuine desire to learn. In return, the teacher supports the student's growth through skilled instruction, mentorship, social and personal protection. This mutual respect fosters not just academic learning, but holistic development and social integration. So, any questions on the responsibilities between teachers and students? Okay. I hope you don't mind going relatively quickly through this because most of it is pretty evident. Between responsibility between husband and wife, a commitment to the wife is to honor, respect her, be loyal to her, share authority, provide gifts. In response, reciprocally, the wife's responsibility is to organize the duties of the household, hospitality, fidelity, wise budgeting, and skillfulness in her. The west is where the sun sets, associated with rest, companionship, and home. It represents one's wife or spouse with whom one shares the twilight years and intimate partnership. Sunset marks the end of daily labor, returning to one's home and loved ones. The spousal relationship is one of mutual comfort, sharing, and support, especially in the later stages of life. A balanced and respectful partnership between husband and wife is the nature of the relationship. The husband supports his wife with kindness, trust, shared responsibility, acknowledging her dignity and role. In return, the wife responds with care, loyalty, and capable management of the household. This mutual respect and cooperation secures a secure and harmonious home. I think this is pretty forward thinking on behalf of the Buddha. You consider the cultural time when at this time in the culture, women were sometimes considered to be possessions, whereas the Buddha highlighted their authority and key aspect of the wife in the society. Any questions on this? Responsibility with you and your friends. You are generous, kind words, helpful, impartial, integrity, reciprocal responsibility and supportiveness, protecting your wealth, providing shelter, loyalty, and honor your family. Now, in ancient cosmology, the north symbolized stability, protection, and fortune. So it represents one's friends and companions who provide loyalty, encouragement, and refuge. The north is associated with shelter from heat, direction of auspiciousness in some cultures. So true friends are constant, dependable, much like the polar star, which ancient travelers used for orientation. This section highlights the qualities of true friendship, grounded in generosity, respect, and fairness. When a person treats friends with kindness, honesty, and support, trust, loyalty naturally grow. Good friends, in turn, offer protection, stand by one another in times of need, care for each other's well-being. In this way, north represents the direction of steadfast friendship made secure through mutual compassion and integrity. Nadir, which is the workers, your employees, the commitment of the employee is working hard, just wages, health care, perks of leave time, reciprocal acts. This is your responsibility to the employees is giving them the proper work, wages, health care, perks, and leave time. They, on return, rise early, stay late, no stealing, work well, and allegiance. The nadir is the downward direction representing the foundation or support upon which one stands. It refers to those who work under one's authority, such as servants, workers, or employees. Just as the earth below supports us physically, those who work for us support our material lives. Treating them well is like maintaining a solid foundation. If cracked, one's support structure collapses. This passage teaches that ethical leadership involves fairness, care, respect for workers' well-being. When employers assign suitable tasks, provide proper support, and treat staff humanely, it builds trust and loyalty. In return, good employees show dedication, honesty, and responsibility in their service. The foundation of a stable relationship between employer and employee is grounded in mutual caring. Any question or discussion on this? Okay. Finally, to the zenith or upward to the aesthetics, commitments to them are loving acts, supporting them through acts, speech, thought, hospitality, and material support. Reciprocal, they restrain us from evil, nurture goodness, loving kindness to us, enlighten, clarify, and teach us goodness. The zenith is the upward direction, symbolizing aspiration, higher ideals, and spiritual elevation. It represents religious teachers, monks, ascetics, and those who guide in the Dhamma and virtue. They're like the sky above, reminding us of higher purpose and transcendence. Respecting and supporting them brings spiritual uplift and guidance. The ideal relationship between lay people and spiritual teachers is grounded in respect and generosity. When lay people support ascetics with kindness, open-heartedness, and material help, they honor the highest values in life. In return, teachers guide them morally, intellectually, and spiritually. Thus, the zenith represents the spiritual peak of life, secured through mutual care and ethical influence. Okay, questions on this? We have finished with the Sigālovāda Sutta, and I'm now going to talk about the Ratana Sutta. Now, the Ratana Sutta is in a collection in the Khuddaka Nikaya called the Sutta Nipata. All right, so it's a collection of some of the oldest suttas that are in the Tipitaka. And I just want to give you some idea about the Sutta Nipata. This is, I'm holding up a book which is the Pali Text Society translation of the Sutta Nipata. It's about 150 pages of sutta, 300 pages of endnotes. All right, so it was done in 1992, and it goes through each of the suttas. It's got about, for the Ratana Sutta, it's about 3 pages, 2.5 pages of information. 25 years later, Bhikkhu Bodhi took the Sutta Nipata and said, I'm not just going to do a translation, I'm going to do a new updated translation of the Sutta Nipata, but I'm also going to translate all the commentary and sub-commentary associated with it, or almost all. So instead of this being 150 pages of sutta, 300 pages of endnotes, this is 1,600 pages. All right? This just gives you an idea of how much more is than in just the suttas. So from the time of when the sutta is recorded to when the commentaries were compiled, about 400 AD, about 900 years later after the Buddha, it expanded dramatically. I mentioned about 2.5, 3 pages. Just the commentary is more than 30 pages. So 10 times as much text. Interpretation. Now you could say, oh, I'm just going to go by the sutta. And earlier there was a discussion just now about meditation. And if you just go by the sutta, this is what it says. Very brief. There are 10,000 suttas. And how do you interpret them? There's thousands of ways of interpreting them. However, when you look at the Theravada commentary, you get the official Theravada way of looking at things. All right? And so, going back to the earlier discussion about meditation, the Khanika Samadhi, the momentary concentration, that's not in the sutta. It's from the commentary and the Visuddhimagga. And then later teachers such as Mahasi Sayadaw expanded on it even further. But a lot of the material that we are familiar with in the Theravada tradition comes from the official Theravada commentary, which is, in the case of the Ratana Sutta, 10 times longer than the original sutta itself. Okay? So I just wanted to make that comment and refer back to the earlier discussion that yes, in the sutta, it's somewhat limited, but the commentary adds 10 times as much detail. And even in this, Bhikkhu Bodhi did not include all the grammatical stuff and all the linguistic stuff. He just kept the doctrinal stuff from the commentary. So the actual commentary itself, included with all of that, is much, much thicker even still. So far, if you want to read the commentary, the Theravada commentary to the suttas, it's only available for a very few suttas. For the Satipatthana Sutta, it has been translated. It has been done for, Bhikkhu Bodhi has done a few, and this is the first time that he undertook taking an entire collection, which originally was 1,500 pages or 150 pages, now is 1,500 pages, 10 times as long. So what I'm going to do is give you both the original and what's in the commentary explanation for the Ratana Sutta. The Ratana Sutta is a protective chant for communal well-being. It praises the special qualities of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and wishes for all beings to be happy, safe, free from harm through the power of these 3 gems. That is what the Ratana Sutta is about. It is designed to be easy to recite, easy to memorize, easy to recite. From the structure of it, it's clearly designed to be recited. It has a steady rhythm that flows well when spoken. There are each of the 17 little sections has got 4 lines, 8 syllables per, so it has a rhythm in Pali. It repeats key lines, making it easy to remember. The sentences are short and simple. It follows the same pattern when talking about the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha as jewels. The words sound smooth and are easy to say aloud. So even when picking the words for the sutta, the words themselves are designed to flow off the tongue naturally. So it is designed to be, the Ratana Sutta, like the Metta Sutta and some of the other Mahamangala Sutta, they're designed to be recited. Okay? Unlike what you find in many of the other suttas and the Nikayas. Here's the background story. The city of Vasali was suffering from famine. So what happened is the crops failed, and because of that, people were going hungry. The poor people started dying, and when people die, then what it says in the sutta, amanusya, non-human. Later people say spirits. They translate that as spirits. But it could also be translated as animals, right? Animals are non-human. So non-humans came into the city because of all these corpses, causing fear and bringing disease. Okay? So there's the three crises that happened all at the same time. Famine, fear, disease, all happening at the same time. The Vichavi, which are the occupants of the Sara, they asked the Buddha for help. King Bimbisara consented. Basically, to give you a bit of context, and it goes into a lot of detail in here, so much story detail in the commentary. The Vichavi were a republic. They didn't have a king. They were a republic, so it was organized by a group of community leaders, if you will. And so when all this happened, the people started going to the community leaders and saying, what are we going to do about all these problems we're having? Somebody said, hey, why don't we go ask the Buddha for help? He is reputed to be very powerful, give blessings, very benevolent, and it just so happens he's in the next door. He's in the state next door, which happens to be a kingdom. And so they said, okay, we'll send a delegation to the Buddha. And so all these people, these Chavis, went to the Buddha, and he was at Abhidhamma monastery. And the Buddha, they asked the Buddha, hey, we got all these problems, can you come and help us? The Buddha said, I am here on the invitation of King Bimbisara. You have to go ask him, because I'm here because of him. So they went and asked the king. The king said, okay, I'll be a nice neighbor. I will allow this. And then it goes into so much detail about how King Bimbisara laid out the roadwork, paved it over, made it very smooth all the way to the Ganges River, and prepared all this procession and covered it with petals and so on. Got him to the river, and from the river, he built these boats and said you could go across the river. And then the Chavis met him at the other side, and again, built all this road. There's so many details about the parasols and all this kind of stuff about all this simple little journey between two cities. So they went to so this is why it's 10 times longer, right? And so the Buddha crossed the Ganges with 500 monks. Now, 500 is a common number in the suttas. In ancient India, 500 was just what it meant is many, right? So it's not exactly, there wasn't exactly 500 monks, it's just many. And as soon as the Buddha touched the shore of the Chavis, there was a special kind of rain that washed away the corpses. So any person who said, I don't want to get wet, the rain didn't touch them, but it washed away all the corpses and cleaned up the province. When the Buddha reached Vaisali, Sakka and his retinue of devas appeared, and most of the non-humans left. So with all of these devas all of a sudden coming to the border of the city, many of the non-humans said, I'm out of here. And it describes it in the commentary as they got jammed in the gates. So if they're really spirits, they're not going to get jammed in a gate, right? They just fly away. So that, to me, that suggests animals, physical beings with not only were they jammed in the gates, they broke through the wall and left through the wall. This, to me, suggests that the non-humans may not have been just spirits, had a physical body. The Buddha then recited the Ratana Sutta to Ananda and told Ananda to repeat this sutta while walking the streets of Vaisali and sprinkling water from the Buddha's alms bowl. Alright, so you know how when you go to a puja, very often the monk will take a flower and sprinkle water on you. This is where it comes from. The idea of spreading the blessing because the Buddha told Ananda, take this bowl, my alms bowl, fill it with water, walk around the street, sprinkle water from my alms bowl. All right? Again, according to the commentary. When hearing Ananda, the remaining non-human beings fled through the city gates, broke down walls. When the non-human beings left, the disease subsided. Okay? The Buddha and the 500 monks went to the central meeting hall. Now, the way that cities were organized at the time of the Buddha is every big city had a central meeting hall where important things happened, right? So this is when, so the Buddha would go there, was invited to go there, a seat was prepared, and they said, the Buddha said, all right, I will wait. I'm not going to say anything until Ananda finishes his tour in the city. So they're waiting and waiting with the Chavi, the people in the city, the key people in the city. Saka, the king of the gods, devas from, it specifically says true deva worlds. And I'll come back to that in a moment, why it says two deva worlds. When Ananda arrived from touring the city, the Buddha recited the Ratana Sutta for everyone. Alright, that's the background story of the Ratana Sutta. Any questions, comments on the Ratana Sutta?
Is it called lotus rain?
Yes, it was. It was called lotus rain. You're right. Because that's the type of a special kind of magical rain that only wets things that don't want to be wet. Sorry, it doesn't wet things that don't want to be wet. So if a human is there, I don't want to get this rain on me, it avoids me. But it washes away all of the dead bodies. Yeah, that's the lotus rain. Okay, here is the first verse of the sutta. Whatever beings are gathered here, whether of the earth or in the sky, may all beings indeed be happy. And then listen carefully to what is said. We're going to do a deep dive on this verse. Okay, so this is sutta. This is actually what's in the sutta itself. When the Buddha said, whatever beings are gathered here, this is the initial invocation or initiation to the devas. Now, devas of the earth, now when the Buddha said whether of the earth or in the sky, devas of the earth are from the Chatu Maharajika realm. This is the realm just above the human realm, the realm of the four gods, the four kings. In the east are the musicians, in the south are the devas that are associated with trees and forests, mountains and treasures. The west are the nagas, the giant kind of dragon-like and snake. North are the yakas. Yakas are sometimes translated as goblins. What I have, there was an interesting interpretation I read that yakas may have been the original inhabitants, like the aboriginal, uncivilized aboriginal inhabitants of India. All right, primitives. All right, so these devas are associated with earthly objects. They're very close to the earth. Devas in the sky are from the Tavatimsa realm. These four kings, the king of the east, south, west, and north, they are servants to Saka, who is the king in Tavatimsa heaven. Okay, so devas from the sky are from the Tavatimsa realm, and these, from the commentary, are the two deva realms: the Chaturmahajika realm, the realm associated with the earth, the earthly beings, and the sky, the Tavatimsa realm. All right, the ones that are just above the earth, that are a little higher than the earth realm, but they're in the sky. When the Buddha taught the Abhidhamma, he taught it in the Tavatimsa realm, Why did he pick it? Why did the Buddha teach in the Abhidhamma realm? It's because the population of devas gets smaller as you go up, because there's fewer and fewer of them. The most quantity is the Chaturmarajika associated with Earth. Actually, more than that are the humans. More than that are the Petas. More than that are the animals. There's far more animals in the world than there are humans. And below that are the hell beings. So in terms of quantity, it's like a pyramid. And so, and the Buddha, and there's a link, as I mentioned, between the Chaturmarajika and the Tapatimsa. They can visit each other. They're connected. Right? The other higher realms, those devas are aware of what's going on beneath them, but you can't look up. You can't go up. So the Tapatimsa realm cannot look at the Yama realm or the Dusita realm or the higher realms. But the Yama realm and Dusita realm can look down on the Tapatimsa realm and Chaturmarajika realm and on the earth. So the Buddha chose the Tapatimsa realm because that was the place where the Chaturmarajika realm devas, the Tapatimsa realm devas, and all the others could attend. Okay? Nobody was locked out except for the humans and animals and so on. Okay? So devas in the sky are from the Tapatimsa realm. Devas from the Yama, Dusita, Marathi, Paranirani, Sabati realms also included in the sky. So there are 6 deva realms. The one closest to Earth is the Chaturmarajika. Above that is the Tapatimsa. Then the pleasant realm, or the Yama, Dusita realm, that is the realm where the Buddha was a bodhisattva before becoming down to earth. This realm, the Nimarati realm, is the realm where the devas are able to create objects of pleasure just through their own mind. And the highest deva realm is where somebody else prepares. The devas don't even have to prepare the objects of pleasure. They can just have it on them. Somebody else prepares it for them. But these higher realms would also be included in the sky. But when you start going up in these realms, the devas care less and less and less about what's going on in the human realm. All right, so really the Buddha was focusing primarily on the Chaturmarajika and the Tapatimsa realm, those 2 deva realms, because those are the realms that care about what's happening in the earth. And there's a story in the commentary where every 2 weeks, the 4 kings go and survey what's going on in the human realm. Each of them look in their own direction. So the deva of the east goes and looks at what's going on in the east realm. The north looks in the north, the south looks in the south, west to the west, north to the north. And then they make a report. Here's how the humans are behaving. And they report it up to Saka, the king of the gods. And so, and then the king of the gods intervenes or encourages what's happening. We'll talk more about that later, about what the gods do. So, any questions about these realms, whatever beings are gathered here, whether it be earth or in the sky? Any questions?
Which realm is Saka?
Saka realm, he is the king of the Tapatimsa realm. So the other four kings here report up to him.
So he's lower than
He's lower than all these realms, but Saka is considered to be the king of the realms where they care about humans. The rest of them are too busy being happy. They don't care about what's going on, about the humans. So you've got the 4 kings close to the earth. They report up to Saka and his accompanying 33. So, in my opinion, the guardian devas are the most important. I'm talking from my opinion as a human. As a human, the guardian devas. I really don't care about the Yama, Tusita, and all of these higher realms. They don't influence me. They don't disturb me. I don't disturb them. They don't care about us. I don't care about them. But the guardian devas are important. Do I think they're still functioning? In fact, we're now going to do a deep dive into guardian devas because I think they're the most important devas. Initial connection. A deva may take an interest in a household when its residents develop metta. So and I'm going to give specific sutta references or commentary references to support all these points I make. When it talks about the benefits of metta, there is a sutta that talks about the benefit of the metta. And it says people who develop metta are, quote, protected by devas. That's what it says in the sutta. These people, those who develop metta, are protected by metta. The next sentence says, in that list of things that are benefits of metta, is that weapons and fire and disease cannot hurt you. Why? Because of the devas getting involved. So, you want your devas to be, your household devas to protect you? Practice metta. That will make them want to be close to you. That will make the practicing metta very important for building a rapport, a relationship with the devas. According to the commentary to AN 611, a person who is warm and friendly is dear to humans, dear to non-humans, and easily obtains what they need. And when danger of famine arises, the devas take special care of them. So, being a nice person, not just radiating metta in the mind, but translating that into being a nice person, helping other people be warm and friendly. It's translated as cordial in the suttas, but basically when you do that, yes, other people like you, animals like you, you get what you want, and when there's danger or famine, the devas take special care of you. According to this sutta, AN 5.210, if you fall asleep mindfully with clear comprehension, while you sleep, you're going to be protected by devas. It says that in the sutta. According to verse 181 of the Dhammapada, yogis who practice meditation are dear to the devas. And it mentions both samatha or vipassana. So, meditators are dear to the devas. Now, according to the commentary to Jataka 301, a human can have a personal protective deva. This is a case where there were two countries going to war, and the king said, the two kings said, rather than us fight, let's have our devas fight. My deva will fight your deva. And whoever deva wins the battle. All right? That's the story. And Jataka Tales got lots of fun stuff in there. All right? So that's how you get initial connection with the deva. How do you strengthen the deva's abilities? In Abhidhamma 32, reciting charitas, it says right in the sutta, hey, protect these protective suttas, such as the Ratana Sutta, the Metta Sutta, they will strengthen, that will cause the deva to come close to you, make them stronger, and make them more protective of you. According to the Mahaparinirvana Sutta, when you offer dana and dedicate the merit to the devas will have compassion for you, and it uses the phrase, as a mother has compassion for her child, ensuring you always have nice experiences. So when you offer dana and then dedicate the merit from that offering of dana to the devas, The devas will make sure that they'll have compassion for you, like a mother does to a child. Make sure you always have nice experiences. And the commentary says that when you do not dedicate to the merit, then disease and conflict can happen. All right? So it warns you. So dedicate when you do generosity, when you offer dana, dedicate the merit to the devas. According to AN 3.37, devas are pleased when people behave properly toward their parents, behave properly toward monks, honor the elders of the family, observe the holy days, and do meritorious deeds, as this will lead to more devas in the future. Now, the context of this sutta is the devas and the asuras are fighting. They're having a war. And so Saka, king of the devas, say, we need to make sure that we get more reinforcements. We need more humans to be reborn as devas, not reborn as asuras. All right? And so that's why that's why Saka sends out his 4 kings to every 2 weeks check what's going on in their area of jurisdiction and report, scanning what's going on and report back up and encourage. So then Saka will then get involved to encourage more and more virtuous behavior so that when those humans die, he's got reinforcements. All right? And there's fewer of the asuras. So how can devas, these guardian devas, detect threat? They're called guardian devas because they guard humans against threats. There are many suttas where even devas from far away, can sense what's happening in the human realm. In this particular sutta, the Buddha was about to give a talk, and devas from all the different realms came because they knew that something important is going to happen. So they are watching. When it's really momentous, like, for example, when a Buddha is born or becomes enlightened, then devas from 10,000 world systems, from all the different devas, come and celebrate. But for just giving a talk, in this particular sutta, DN20, it lists all the devas that have come and what they're responsible for. Now, this is a very important one. According to Abhidhamma 130, this is the Deva Messenger Sutta. When devas give a warning, careless people, young people, ignore it and suffer for a long time, falling into lower states of existence. But people with integrity, when warned by devas, do not ignore the noble Dhamma. Now, at this point, I want to share with you a personal experience. I don't know, about 20, 25 years ago, my son, who was a teenager at the time, was behaving like a teenager. Teenagers behave like teenagers. This was causing my wife and I stress. We went to Bhante Mahinda and said, what do we do about our teenager, his way of thinking? Bhante Mahinda said, when you radiate metta, when you do good things and radiate metta, dedicate the merit to your household deva. And I asked, okay, how's that going to help my son? They said, your son, he's living in your house, the household deva will influence your son's way of thinking. It will smooth out and calm out the way of thinking of your son. So, my son was warned of his by the guardian deva of our house, and his behavior changed. Not overnight, but it changed. The Mahamangala Sutta, which we were going to go through next, speaking about that commentary, it shows that debates among humans can lead to debates among devas. The background story here in a nutshell, because I'll go through it later, it's got many, many pages in here. All these humans were arguing among themselves what is lucky? How do I know if I'm going to have a lucky time? Is it through hearing a certain sound? Is that when my day's going to be lucky? Seeing a certain color, a certain shape of cloud? What makes it, what are the signs of good fortune? And all the humans are arguing and could not agree. And the devas who were watching over this said, we don't know either. And they started arguing among themselves. So the devas started arguing among themselves, instigated by the humans. And eventually, Deva sent an emissary to the Buddha and said, what is it that is a good sign, a good luck, a good omen? And that's when the Mahamangala Sutta, all the blessings Sutta was given. Now, how do they influence conditions? We've already mentioned that in this sutta, in the commentary, it explains that most of the non-humans who were causing fear and disease fled when the devas assembled outside Vasali. The Metta Sutta commentary explains that when devas are not pleased with a human, the devas can cause the humans to see frightening objects, hear terrifying sounds, and smell foul odors. If you remember the Metta Sutta, what happened is the 500 monks came to the Buddha and said, we want to meditate. The Buddha said, the best place for you to meditate is in this particular forest. They all went there. They started meditating at the beginning of their vasa. The tree devas were saying, hey, now all of these monks under our trees, it's not appropriate for us to stay in the tree above a monk. So we have to kind of move out. And then they said, these guys aren't leaving. They're going to be here for 3 months. We've got to get rid of these monks so we go back to our trees. And so what it said is that they caused the monks, the meditating monks, to see frightening objects, hear terrifying sounds, smell foul odors. The monks were trying to meditate. This was disturbing them. They went back to the Buddha. The Buddha said, hey, you've got to recite this Metta Sutta, radiate metta to all the devas. And that's exactly what happened. The devas then became very happy to have those monks there, and the 500 monks were able to attain enlightenment. All right, so what that shows is that they are able to put bad thoughts into the mind of humans. Now, in Majjhima Nikaya 130, this is the Deva Dutta Sutta. Immediately after a person is reborn in hell, a deva tries to guide the person's thinking to reduce the time in hell. So what happens is, before they enter the gates of hell, if you will, and are taken over by the hell beings, these devas come and say, hey, don't you remember seeing an old person, a sick person, a dead person? Don't you remember seeing monks? Don't you remember hearing the Dhamma? Why are they doing that? Out of compassion for this person who is going into hell, they're trying to put positive thoughts, a sense of spiritual urgency, so that those positive thoughts can create wholesome karma in that person to reduce the time in hell. The deva cannot, if you're destined for hell, the deva can't stop it. But they can try and reduce the impact. They cannot override unwholesome karma, but they can attempt to reduce the impact. They cannot override the unwholesome karma. If karma says this is going to happen, Deva can't stop it, but they can take the edge off it, if you will. The Great Assembly, when it talks about all these devas coming to listen to the Buddha, they said that each of the list of devas has psychic power. So all of these devas have the psychic power, ability to read others' thoughts, go anywhere they want, make certain changes to matter. They all have these abilities. There's a whole chapter in the Samyutta Nikaya that discusses how devas are able to influence the weather. In the Vinaya, Saka, the king, when the Buddha was bathing, dug a tank, placed a stone, and invented a tree so the Buddha could dry his robe, so that they can make changes to the environment, small changes to the environment. In the Dhammapada commentary, the city guardian deva rewarded the layman Indika with debt collecting yakas, affecting his business affairs. So, you owe Anandapindi money? You're going to get all these nasty yakas disturbing you until you pay up.
So what is happening?
In this particular Jataka, Saka, there was a city where people were getting more and more morally corrupt. And so Saka turned himself into this fearsome dog, or sent a fearsome dog, until the people observed moral precepts. So Saka was doing social engineering by a deva. He was making the whole city more wholesome. The commentary to DN2 mentions a deva who protects righteous sailors from shipwreck, but abandons heedless sailors. In the commentary to the Dreams Sutta, the intervention of devas is mentioned as a cause of dreams. And this is actually what Bhante Mahinda was saying, is that when your son first wakes up in the morning or is about to fall asleep, devas will influence his dreams and that will influence his behavior. In this particular Jataka, there was a king, but a guardian deva used to be his mother in a previous life. Whenever the king gambled, the deva ensured that the dice would always be a winning combination. So what happened is, there was somebody who wanted something from this king. King loved to gamble, said, let's gamble about it. And a more powerful deva scared away this guardian deva, and so he lost the dice roll. In the Vinaya, a tree spirit complained to the Buddha about a monk cutting a tree, and the Buddha then laid down the Vinaya rule is harming plants. So monks are not allowed to harm plants because there might be devas living in that tree or that plant. In the commentary to Dhammapada, when the Buddha was ill, Saka is said to have held a fan, wiped away the excretion with his own hands, and nursed the Buddha until his health was restored. Alright, so this gives some ideas on guardian devas and their ability to influence us.
So all this commentary and all this, we didn't keep the source for all this story. Is it created or from where do we get it?
Okay. When the Buddha listed out in the suttas, when he listed out the 11 sources of his teachings, or the 11 ways in which his teachings were structured, or 9 ways in which his teachings were structured, one of the terms he used was Jataka. And Jataka is a story from the previous life of the Buddha. So what you typically have is a story that starts out, in this existence, the Buddha was a peacock, or the Buddha was this particular monk, or was this ascetic, or was this person or that, or this king. The Buddha was this person, right? And then it may say that Ananda was that person in this story, or this Ananda was the monkey, or whatever. So it has a simple moral story, often a fun moral story, where the Buddha always plays a role, and some of the Buddha's key disciples, like Ananda, Sariputta, Moggallana, sometimes the Buddha is there, but sometimes others are there as well. However, the scholars recognize that most of these stories, or many of these stories, were part of Indian folklore before the Buddha's existence. And so they just kind of Buddhism kind of inherited all these stories and tacked on. It's almost obvious where things have been tacked on to these stories, where, this was the Buddha, this was the Ananda. Okay? So these are simple morality tales. In terms of credibility, I would not consider them to be the word of the Buddha. Even though the Buddha said all these Jataka tales, there are Jataka tales that talk about my previous existences.
This is a value added.
Yeah, value add. Marketing.
Yeah.
Marketing. And often, particularly for children, because they talk about animals and so on. So, So I don't consider them to be highly reputable. And the commentary to them is, even expanded, even less reputable. Okay. So in the next class, I will talk about Pētas and sharing merit with Pētas, because that's the next type of supernatural being that we often talk about, we're concerned about. So any questions about devas?
Have to sentence on data.
Yeah.
So, deva and say, earth devas are hypothetical. Can the earth deva actually rated?
Yes.
They can.
Yes. Yes. They can move up and down. They can move up and down. Between deva realms, they can move up. I remember hearing a talk by Bhikkhu Bodhi about devas. And he said, he's talking to a Western audience. He said, most of you don't believe in these, but he said, he shared a personal story. He was in Sri Lanka in 1985, and somebody came to him and said, there is this new technology, this machine where you can write a letter, place it on top of that machine, and instantaneously, exactly in your handwriting, a copy will appear in America. And he said, oh, come on, I was raised, I'm scientifically trained, no way. I'll believe it when I see it. And of course he's talking about a fax machine. A fax machine. And if you think about it, 50 years ago, when I was a kid, when we were kids, you're trying to describe the internet, AI and all this kind of stuff. You'd go, no way, that's not the way things work. But just because you haven't experienced it yet doesn't mean it's not real.
Yeah.
And so the devas are also trapped in samsara, on the path to spiritual development. They can guide morality. It doesn't hurt to have a deva on your side for small little things. Okay? That's my view on things. It doesn't hurt to have this extra assistance. Do I guarantee that? I've never seen a deva, though I will share with you that Brother James Allen, he would come to our house from time to time and shares the Dhamma, and he said that he himself has seen many devas. He was able to sense their presence, the light, and he was able to sense their presence. And I believe he was not misleading us. It's not that he had conversations with them, but he could sense, this house, this place has devas. Now he was a meditator and was, I think, a very special kind of person. So when he said that, I believe him, that he could sense the existence of these devas, though I personally have not experienced it. Yeah.
What do you call it? Ability to be able to see devas? Just some
I don't know what the term is. Do you know what the term is? The ability to see devas?
Chinese, divine eye.
Yeah. Divine eye, which is right. Okay. Well, divine eye, you can see things happening in other locations. You can also see the devas. Okay. No.
Object using the mind.
Yeah. Telekinesis and so on. Telepathy. Yeah.
Divine eye and divine ear. Divine ear can experience sound far away in the celestial realm. And divine eye, that means you can see all any kind of object in non-human whatever. Devas.
Anura is better. Divine eye.
Yeah.
For these people, are they a blessing or non-blessing? That's it. Is it also one? Is it better not to see or to see?
Is it good or bad to be able to see devas?
Or not only devil ghosts or whatever, all the extraordinary things that some people can see.
Does it lead to you behaving better? I mean, it depends on the person, right?
So it's an effect.
Yeah.
meditation as well. Because I thought it's like something to do with jhana level.
Okay.
Previous life, certain level.
When one develops one's concentration, one is more sensitive to the surroundings. So a person who is a meditator and has developed their concentration, increased their sensitivity, perhaps that would be one condition for being able to detect the presence of devas. So that's how it ties to meditation. Not so much insight, but more concentration. Yeah.
During the Buddha time, we hearing of all the devas coming down, appearing before human them.
Right.
But they you see all the people are praying so hard to the devas. Look like the devas are afraid of the human weapon. They don't come here.
Okay.
They pray very hard, but no devas come to help them. Yes.
The devas will hang around where they are appreciated. Right? Obviously, if you don't appreciate them, and as we will see in this a little later in the Ratana Sutta, when people are making offerings to the devas, transferring merit, or rather dedicating merit, that invites devas to come. As I mentioned earlier, to this initial connection and strengthening, when you dedicate merit to the devas, they want to be close to you. If nobody believes in them, nobody cares about them, if 99% of the people in a country don't care about these devas and don't dedicate merit to them, they don't hang around. They're not going to hang around. They'll go somewhere else. Right? So where they're welcome, where they're appreciated, they come.
They are oppressed now because they are oppressor last night. And then never also cannot have, and then you must have glory for the
Okay, so in the next class we will talk about petas and the dedicating of merit to petas, and we'll go through a sutta called the Hungry Ghosts Outside the Walls Sutta.
outside the wall.
Again, I will give the sutta and then all the commentary to it.